Welcome to the weekend warm-up on the Winners' Enclosure. Chris Dixon joins me once again to discuss the weekend's action and also the final day of Chester. It's been pretty good stuff so far.
Yeah, it has, Emma. It's been a good week on the Rudy. It's obviously still partway through at the time of recording. The ground has been relatively hard work, and final day with the feature of the whole week, the Chester Cup. Stamina definitely going to be at a premium. I'm sure we'll discuss the draw at some point in that particular race. But in the past, when the ground has been really testing, maybe it hasn't been as big a factor to get involved with the draw. But you still don't really want to be too wide. It's a tight turning track, and if you can stick towards the inside, and with the rails moving in each day as well, the fresh ground is going to be towards the inner. So it might well still be a little bit of a factor. But it's been good stuff so far at Chester this week.
We're going to start with the Chester Cup now. What better place to start than their feature of the week? And actually, Not So Sleepy is going to go off favourite, surely. An interesting horse who's fit and well from jumping. But the top three in the betting, just talking about high draws, are drawn 13, 15 and 16.
Yeah, they are. And if you look back to the last time that the Chester Cup was run, actually, 2019, there wasn't one for obvious reasons last year. We had heavy ground, so probably even more testing than what it is likely to be unless they get significant overnight rain. But the last time that we had an easy ground one, stall 16 beat 12, 7 and 17. So when you consider that the couple of years before that on a faster surface, it had been a low draw domination, really. I think that it does highlight the fact that maybe it isn't something we need to get quite as bogged down in. Not So Sleepy, he's going to go forward, you would imagine. He's quite a free-going horse. We see him plenty over jumps as well. He's got the right sort of style for Chester, and even where he's drawn, he's going to be able to get out and across into a fairly good position. But there are quite a few others that are going to want to be on the pace, and I can see a scenario where maybe they end up overdoing it a little bit, particularly as there are quite a few strong travelling, keen going front runners among them, that something from just in behind can pick them off. So I'm hoping that is going to be Falcon 8 for Dermot Weldon and Frankie Dettori. He is a horse with a very, very good pedigree. He's 6 years of age, but he hasn't stood much racing to this point. But he does go really well fresh. So I think the fact that they've aimed him probably straight at this race is interesting. He's got Frankie Dettori aboard. He's won on him before. He's been gelded since he was last seen. It's actually his first go in a handicap. And if you look back to some of his form in listed and group company, then he's really attractively treated off a mark of 104. So he's my fancy for the Chester Cup, for all that there were others I'm sure we can discuss.
Yeah, we could be here all day if we went through a full form analysis of it. I like the chances of Cardano. Ian Williams knows how to win this race. Drawn completely the other end, right on the inside in stall 1. I thought it was a really good run when he was second in that valuable race behind Max Buchan at Musselburgh. That was a mile 6. I can't see the trip being a problem, and I think there's plenty to like about his chances. But how often do we see it? These sort of dual purpose trainers or jump trainers, they sort of, it's fitness, isn't it? Because they come to the fore quite regularly.
They do. I suppose that they're just so used to training into these horses an awful lot of stamina. And you go back, Ian Williams, as you mentioned, dual purpose trainer. He won this race a couple of years ago with Magic Circle. A few years before that, Nicky Henderson, not a dual purpose trainer, just an out and out jumps trainer, really, with the odd flat runner. And his flat runners tend to be in this race and the big staying races at Royal Ascot along the way, and the Cesarewitch races like that. That's really the only races that he runs his horse in. But you go further back, Donald McCain won it back to back. Before that, David Pipe won it. So, there is a bit of a recurring theme that these fellas that know how to train a jumps horse can really ready one for the Chester Cup. So that's perhaps something to bear in mind as well.
We'll move on to the Huxley Stakes at 2:15. Sadly, there's only 5 runners here. Not a surprise. Quite often these races do cut up. Sangarius, I thought, was a very interesting horse for Sir Michael Stout. They thought the world of him as a 2-year-old. He finished 4th in the Dewhurst. That was 2018. He won last year's Hampton Court, obviously, at Royal Ascot. Ended last season in December winning a listed race, and he reopposes here with Bangkok. There was just a nose in it. He's that type of horse that Sir Michael has kept, and I still think there's a bit more left in the tank with him.
I think there probably is. I mean, it would be typical of Sir Michael Stout, a horse of this age, just to get a little bit more out of them, I suppose. And it's not as if he's gone to the well that often at this point in his career, is it? He's had wind surgery since his last season. That's the second time that he's had wind surgery. So whether they just did a minor procedure last time and they've gone the full hog this time around, or whether it's the same little issue that just needs sorting, maybe it's pallet firing. It's hard to know because it's just put down as wind surgery. But that could be something that has a positive impact on him. He's won on easy-ish ground at Ascot, hasn't he? At Royal Ascot a couple of years back when he won the Hampton Court. But generally, I think he's a horse that has got to prove himself on really testing ground. And for all that it might not be absolutely bottomless, it was certainly soft on times on day one of the meeting, and that would just be my worry. I think it won't be a problem.
They've always said they think he's a better horse, haven't they, on a faster surface. And I think if it did get very soft, they'd probably pull him out, because I know they think plenty of him. But as you say, I don't think it's his total ideal conditions, but I don't think will be running if it gets too bad.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair point. And Richard Kingscote is building up a really good relationship with the Stout team, isn't he? So that's a positive. I thought Armory was probably the way to go, Emma. He's got some very good form. Last year, he ended up obviously down in Australia, but that run behind Magical and Gaieth, if you judge him on that, then he wasn't that far behind those two when he was sticking on at the line. He's a horse that he's only going into his 4-year-old season now. He was getting better at the back end of last season on an easy surface as well. He's been trying top-level competition for much of his career now, and he might just find this a little bit less competitive than some of those races that he's been in. So I thought Armory was the way to go in what is quite a tracky little race, really.
We've had some interesting trials, Derby and Oaks at Chester this week. They roll on to Lingfield, which has thrown up Derby winners in the past. We'll start with the fillies, with the Oaks trial there, and Technique is likely to go a favourite, having finished second in the Epsom trial, I should say, behind Worko. He didn't run a great race, did he? Was it yesterday at Chester? They changed the tactics, and I'm just dubious how strong that form is. I think they went quite quick, quite hard at Epsom, and I just think she could. I don't know. I think she's vulnerable.
Yeah, I think if she's going to be at the top of the market, and I haven't seen the prices as they stand, I'll try and find them while we're talking. But
from what I saw, she was about 7-4 favourite.
Yeah, you see, I think that's probably over-egging it a little bit. I could, if you're backing a horse at that sort of price, whatever price you're backing a horse at, you want to think that they should be a little bit shorter. And so you're kind of thinking, should she be sort of 6-4 or shorter? Probably not. It was a good run at Epsom, but as you say, that form given a little bit of a knock with Worko. Time of the race was pretty good. We wouldn't know about the ground conditions either. The ground at the time of recording is good to soft in places, but they are due on Saturday morning 8 to 12 millimetres of rain. That's going to have a significant impact. It's going to be really hard work, and that might just be her undoing. She's obviously beaten one of the other rivals, Saver Forest, when they met on the all-weather, and that horse has progressed since to make that form look all right, but it's away from this kind of level. I was sort of leaning towards Ocean Road. I don't know what sort of price she is, but Hugo Palmer, Sheen Murphy, she ran a very nice race to finish second on her debut on what was soft ground. Now, that was behind Noon Star, who came out and won what looked a reasonably enough novice at Wetherby the other week, and that horse was being talked up as a possible Oaks filly on the back of that. And Ocean Road was second to her before she went out and won on her second start at Lingfield in quite tidy fashion, and doing well to come from the back of the field. So I think there's a little bit more to come from her, and I'd go with Ocean Road.
Well, I like the chances of Loving Dream, who was second to Noon Star at Wetherby. So there's not two dissimilar form lines there, but I think she'll enjoy the step up in distance here from 1.25 miles, and I thought she was quite an interesting runner there. Another interesting race on the card is obviously the Derby trial. It's a shame we don't have High Definition, who is the anti-post favourite for the Derby, but after some bloods came back a little bit wrong, Aiden decided not to go there. Adaya is the horse that's likely to start favourite, and I think warrants his place at the top of the market.
I think he does, and he's the one that I'm going to side with. He's a really well-bred son of Frankel. He's a real big, rangy horse, and he really does quite impress in his appearance. And I think he's a horse that, as a result of that physique that he's got, is going to do better into next year, is Adayar. And I like the run at Sandown on his seasonal return when he looked like he might just come on for the run, but he shaped quite nicely. I think he's going to be a strong stayer. And as a result, I think that the step up in trip here is likely to suit him. And he's got some form on testing ground already.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's very much the one they've all got to beat. And then Aidan O'Brien's got a couple, Carlisle Bay and Kyprios, who it's very difficult to know, but they're clearly not first string players, because you can often get quite a good guide by the market. And yeah, it'll be interesting. It won't be the first time that something springs a surprise from that yard.
Yeah, I suppose Kyprios would come into the mix if it became a full-on stamina test. He's actually a brother to Falcon 8, who obviously I tipped for the Chester Cup, and he's related to the likes of Search for a Song and horses like that. So he's bred to stay very, very well. He's bred to get better as well. So he's an intriguing contender with a cheapie. So, but as you say, you kind of feel that maybe they're just down the pecking order a little bit. And I'm quite keen on ADR. I think he's going to improve quite a lot. I think he'll love the ground. I think he'll love the test of stamina. And I think he's a horse that's getting better. Yeah,
totally agree with you there. What about the fillies Group 3 at 325? The draw can help here, can play a bit of a part. Double or Bubble is likely to go a favourite here. She's won 3 of her last 4 starts. Last time off a handicap mark of 91. She's gone up £10. I know that's irrelevant here. She has got to improve again. But it was really likeable. She's very progressive, isn't she?
She is extremely progressive, and I suspect that she's going to run a very big race. She's won her last 3 starts, and she's looking all over like a pattern class filly, I think. But whether she's a pattern class filly on this ground, I'd have my doubts. She's by Exceed and Excel, whose progeny tend to be better on fast turf or the all-weather. And she's a full sister to a filly called Mix and Mingle, who also won this race a few years back for the same connection. But she didn't really want slow ground either. So I think ground conditions are potentially going to be a massive problem for Double or Bubble. And as such, for all that, if this was on quick ground, I'd think she's going to win, absolute certainty kind of view. But it's not going to be that kind of ground. And I think that's a little bit of a problem for her. Bounce the Blues, I think, will enjoy the conditions. The fact that she stays a little bit further is a positive, and she's drawn towards the stand side. But German trained horses have had a bit of success in this race in the past, Emma, and I thought that Aksana looked quite interesting. The ground will, I'm sure, be quite testing. I know a lot of her form in Germany is on good ground, but she'll handle these kind of conditions well. She's bred to stay further, and she's got a fair level of form in Germany as well. So I'm going to go with Aksana. I don't know as much about her as some of the others, but I don't think that any of these are world beaters, particularly on these conditions, and Aksana might just be better than them.
Okay, we'll Double or Bubble on fast ground for me, but if it does get too soft, it would be Bounce the Blues at Fauci Murphy and Andrew Balding, a combination in really good form. And she's got very good form. She's rated £6 higher than the likes of Double or Bubble. She was 3rd in last year's Scepter Stakes. She was 2nd in the Rosemary Stakes. She brings a decent level of form to the race. And I think she's a very intriguing runner there. And then we're going to move across to Ascot. They've got quite a strong card there, the Victoria Cup being the feature handicap, which looks as tricky as it always does. But we'll start with the Buckhound Stakes. That's a 1.5 mile listed race, and Without a Flight is certainly one in the lineup here that's very progressive for the Crisfords. Was no match for Al Arcee in the John Porter, but Al Arcee could be really quite special.
Yeah, I definitely bumped into one on that occasion, didn't he? And I suspect that there's a little bit more to come from Without a Fight with that in mind. Again, I'm expecting it going to be quite hard work at Ascot over the weekend. The band of rain that's coming in over Friday night, I'm sure is going to hit Ascot as well. But whether it does or doesn't probably isn't a problem to Without a Fight. So particularly if you're having a bet early on, then Without a Fight, who's won on fast ground and bottomless ground during the course of the past year, won't be bothered either way. And I think that was a further step forward when second to Al Arcee in the John Porter last time out. And there is more to come. I'm going to look elsewhere and go against him, but I think he's got a big, big chance.
Okay, I think you're going to look elsewhere with something that caught my eye as well. Alba Flora?
Absolutely. Was in front. She was in front of Without a Fight when the pair were in the places behind Berkshire Rocco at this track over a little bit further last year. Now, she is a very, very strong stayer. She's from a family of very strong stays. She's from a family of horses that love deep ground as well. I don't think they really went quick enough for her in that Ascot race last year. They kind of crawled around very sensibly on a slow surface, and she only got going late. I think if there's a more end-to-end pace in this race, which I think there will be, courtesy of Outbox as much as anything else, but also you've got Lost Eden in there and a horse called Gold Maze who likes to go forward. So I think we're going to get a good gallop, and I'm really sweet on the chance of Albaflora. Rafe Beckett, his horses are going well. He's well capable of getting them ready first up. She's got form fresh on the back of a break in the past. She'll love the conditions. She'll love the test. And I think she's got an outstanding chance.
Gosh, I'm getting concerned. We're agreeing on quite a few of the races on Saturday. But no, I agree. I don't think we've seen the best in her yet. I think there's more to come. And I think there's lots to like about her. And she's an appealing type of price as well. What about the Victoria Cup? Draw? Where do you want to be drawn, do you think?
I think on balance, I think you want to be high, Emma. Look, when you're punting a race like this, you can do it one of two ways. You can kind of think, I'm all in on one side of the draw, and you basically make half the field and just think, those low-drawn horses, not going to bother with them too much. I'm fairly sure this is where we want to be. And you play that race just thinking, if I'm wrong on the draw, I'm wrong on the race, take it on the chin, and you focus your attention on that other side. Or you kind of just go one on each side of the draw and think, well, I hope I'm right, whichever, take out the factor.
Or it's double lose.
Yeah, well, I suppose so, yeah. But on balance, I think the higher drawn horses, I think that, if anything, is the way generally that it wants to be at this time of year at the track and even into the Royal Meeting. And I think there's more pace in the higher numbers than there is in the lower numbers. So I think that is where you're going to want to be in the higher stalls. I'd still want to have two on my side in those higher numbers, though.
Okay, so what are you swaying towards?
So I had a short list of 5. Acquitted was
8.
one of them. Yeah, short list of 5. Acquitted was one. Ruled him out as his favourite. Caravana was another one. Think Caravana is quite an interesting runner, but I decided I couldn't have 3. Fox Champion, I think, is well handicapped, but I don't like where he's drawn. So that leaves me with Escobar and Sunset Breeze. Escobar, first of all, for David O'Mara. His horse is running extremely well. Escobar won the Balmoral over a mile here on deep ground, and I think that will suit him the way that the conditions are going to come up. And a well-run race over this sort of trip should be fine for him. I think he's on a nice enough mark now, and the race that he had as his reappearance run just didn't pan out for him. So I think he's going to do better. And Sunset Breeze is the other one. Now, this is a horse that was improving in some lower grade, but quite strong for the grade handicaps during the course of last season. And then was second on each of the last couple of starts. But on both occasions, was beating horses that were absolutely thrown in. We've mentioned Double or Bubble already today. Bumped into Double or Bubble when she was rated 16 pounds lower than she is now. Wasn't beaten far. And behind Tranchi, who is now rated a stone higher than he was then. Sunset Breeze, only £4 higher. Canny trainer Sir Mark Prescott, there ain't any cannier ones than him. I think that he's just thought, we'll go straight there, absolutely on our A game. Ground won't be a problem. And off a light enough weight and mark, I think has got a real chance each way.
Okay, Acquitted, as you say, there's nothing not to like about his chances other than his price. Big player on his second in the Spring Mile. And I thought a strongly run 7 furlongs would suit him. But I like the chances of Chief of Chiefs. He won the Wokingham Consolation race, a new race at Royal Ascot. Decent form here. I think Jamie Spencer's very good on the straight course, and I think he'll suit this horse because it will undoubtedly be coming with a late run. He ran well in the Camage and was a little bit short of room. I just generally thought, Ascot form, Ascot horses, he's one of them. Yep. And he's sure to run well. And then at Haydock, the 7 furlong listed race at 3:45. Quite an interesting, hot little race, as you'd expect.
It is. It's a tough contest that I was struggling to really get a very strong view on. Tom Frey is ultimately the horse that I've sided with, just because I think Tom Frey absolutely relishes bad ground, and we're probably going to get bad ground. I also think that the race is going to turn up being a proper test of stamina at the trip, because there's a few of them that want to go forward. But ultimately, I just kind of thought, which horse do I think will probably run its race? And I think Tom Frey will, because when the ground is deep, he almost always does. quite tightly knit on these terms, aren't they? A few of them. It wasn't a strong view at all, but I thought Tom Frey would love the conditions, and I think he'll be fit.
It's exactly what I thought. Progressive horse, soft ground, 7 furlongs, right up his alley. Race horses are in good form and plenty to like about it. I thought the Irish Raider Current Option was quite interesting as well. Finished second in the Gladness Stakes behind one of Aidan O'Brien's on his reappearance. Won't have a problem with the ground, and was an interesting one to throw into the mix as well. But a race, as you say, at this stage, that's very hard to have, I think, a sort of strong view. So there we go. That's a summary of what we've got to look forward to this weekend. We should be slightly wiser regards the Oaks and the Derby, because most of the trials will be then concluded, and the show rolls on. It won't be long, will it? And Epsom will be knocking on our door. Chris, thank you very much indeed, and enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week.